Discovering your hybrid self. Hi, my name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Welcome to another Make More Mind Bites interview. And today I have an amazing guest. And this is somebody who is an absolutely amazing speaker. He's so articulate. He has so many great knowledge with regards to building your self-confidence, finding your hybrid self, because he is just one of those people that really understands how the mind works and how to break through certain comfort zones and really unlock that potential that you have inside you. He is the best-selling author of the book Hybrid Self. So please welcome Mr. Jebb Richard.
Thank you very much, Fong, for that introduction, and good morning.
Hey, morning to you too. How's it been?
It's been great. Yeah, there's been a lot of good, let's call it wins, which is, you have to take account of all the wins that you have in your life and keep that momentum going. So, as you know, I purchased a new home. I'm getting involved more in some joint projects with some people. And of course, the recent best-selling book was a great success. Things are going good.
Awesome. Well, once again, congratulations on your best-selling book, and also congratulations on getting your book launched. I know that was a journey for you, and one that was very exciting as you were doing it. And I was hearing a lot of great stuff about it. And also, I heard a lot of great reviews coming from people who bought the book and read the book and gave you some great feedback. For people who don't really know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, and also tell us about your book.
Well, as you said, my name's Jebb. I am an engineer, but I am also an introvert. And what my book was really about was my journey over the past several years from introvert to incorporating some aspects and behaviors that extroverts have to become kind of a more well-rounded person, right? There's a word going around called ambivert, which is kind of like you use both sides of your personality, right? Your introverted side as well as your extroverted side. And that is something that I have been working on over the last few years. And I've noticed a lot of success in different areas of my life because of that, right? If you just have this idea of who you are and what you're capable of and the way that you're supposed to behave in certain social situations, the story you tell yourself is going to be almost like a script that you play out as a person. So one thing I noticed is once I started telling myself that I didn't have to follow the script, that it was okay for me to behave in ways that maybe seemed a little less natural to me, over time, they started to become more comfortable for me, and I could incorporate those into my self-concept, right? So a lot of the behaviors that I saw were advantageous in social situations were the kind of behaviors that you would think of extroverts possessing and not introverts. But as I started practicing those kind of behaviors and becoming more comfortable with them, they became part of my self-concept.
Mm-hmm. Well, so here it is right here, the hybrid self. I highly recommend people pick this up. Now, as you were going through your life journey, what was that one moment that you all of a sudden went, you know what, I need to write a book on this. I need to get this out to other people, and I need to be able to help people. And writing this book would really get that message out there. What was that moment in your life that you go, this is the time to do it?
I think it was giving the speech in the contest, right? So I had developed a speech in Toastmasters for the annual contest that they do, the speaking competition. And when I had put together that speech, I just wanted to give a speech about my personal experience and share it with others. And I didn't really have any idea how it would resonate with the audience. But when I gave that speech, it was really well received. It resonated really well with the audience. And I had a lot of people approach me afterwards and wanted to talk to me about my journey. And they said that they could associate with it. They said, oh, well, I'm also an introvert and I'm also struggling with social situations. And I also want to be a little better at meeting people or thriving in social environments or even giving presentations at work or on stage. Do you have any advice on, what would work for me? Because it sounds like you've kind of overcome these hurdles. And when I realized that my speech was really resonating with people, I said, well, okay, I need to find a way to cover more material than I could in a 7-minute speech, right? And really package this in a way that people who could benefit from this, people who would find value in my journey, and it could help them with their own journey. I need to find a way to communicate with those people. And then that's where I realized that I need to write a book on this.
Now, without giving too much away of all the great tips and content that you have on this book, if somebody comes up to you and go, you know what, I'm very, very shy. I don't like going to networking events. I don't like meeting people, but I really have to. How do I break out of that comfort zone? How do I jump out there and become that inner extrovert that is supposed to be locked inside of me? What would you say is the first 2 or 3 steps for that person to take?
I would say baby steps, really. I mean, that's kind of the classic answer you would get from a lot of self-help people, but start out small, start out reasonable. Don't overwhelm yourself. And also don't tell yourself the story that you don't like it, right? Like, have you tried every kind of socializing strategy? Have you been to every single kind of networking event? I'm sure if you keep trying different things and you have an open mindset about the possibilities, then maybe you'll discover that you don't dislike it as much as you do. I think people have this strong idea about what they think they're going to like, and that's usually not the case. There's a lot of studies that show that people who just walk up to strangers on the bus and start conversations with them, regardless of how awkward they are, regardless of how the conversation goes, those people actually end up being happier, right? Because of what happens in our brains, and we are a social animal, and just the act of socializing kind of makes us feel a little more connected, right? But most people won't do it because they'll tell themselves, "Oh, I don't like talking with strangers." So sometimes human beings don't have the best idea of what our future self is actually going to like, for one. But yeah, I would mention, if you don't like going to networking events and you think they're intimidating, then try to go with a friend. If you have someone who is more experienced at going with these networking events, just go with them, and maybe even just kind of like job shadowing, right? Just follow them around and see what they're doing, and figure out what parts of their behavior that you would be able to mimic or imitate. So I think it does start with looking at what somebody else is doing that's working effectively, and basically trying to copy that behavior. And it's going to feel weird and awkward at first because it isn't your natural behavior, but over time it will be, right? And then you can figure out how to adapt to their behavior so that it is something that feels more natural for you.
Do you have a personal story that you could share where you go, you know what, I'm going to be doing this so that I could get out of that kind of scenario, where you applied a certain thing to overcome that challenge?
Again, like just with the networking events, right? So there were times in my life where I felt like I need to start expanding my network. I need to make more connections. And I just felt so awkward going to any kind of networking event. So I had a friend, John. He was way better at these networking events than I was. So I did just like I was explaining before, right? I went to the networking event with John. I basically kind of shadowed him. I saw what John was doing, and if John would start a conversation with somebody, I would just kind of watch how he introduced himself into conversations, and then I would follow the same thing. Usually, again, at these networking events, I discovered that if you just start talking to somebody, they're not going to react in a weird way. Like, that's what networking events are for, right? So if you just walk up to basically anybody who's not in conversation and say, "Hey, I'm Jebb. Hey, I'm Fong," and just introduce yourself. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to introduce themselves, maybe shake hands, whatever. And then you guys can start talking about what you do, what interests you, what you're passionate about. And everybody's got a passion, right? And sometimes people think that it's difficult to find the other people out there who share the same passion as you. But that's the beauty of having a stronger network and meeting more people, is that you are more able to do that, right? You're more able to find the people whose passions align with your passions. And you could be talking to somebody and say, like, oh yeah, I'm really interested in personal transformation and how the little things that we do every single day can start self-authoring our future self, so that our behavior better aligns with our dreams and our life goals. And then maybe the person you're talking with says, oh, I'm not really into that, but I know this other person and they're so into that, right? I should really get you guys connected. I'll give you an introduction, right?
Very, very well said. During this whole process of writing your book, what was the most challenging aspect of getting this book done? And then how did you overcome that challenge?
I mean, you probably know this, but I'll share it with the audience. Like, I usually just have too many things on the go. So for me, the problem really was focus, right? And trying to convince myself to focus more on the book, and maybe save my other priorities for later, right? I just had so many things I was trying to do at once. And another thing was I was trying to let my passion take me through all the way on this book, because I was really passionate about finishing this book and writing it. But there were certain days where my passion was waning, right? I think one thing I learned is that developing self-discipline is really important if you want to set goals for yourself, and figuring out how your own motivational schemas work, let's say, because everybody gets motivated by different things. And I found that there were certain days where I just wasn't motivated to write the book. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, I'll wait until another day where I'm feeling more motivated. But sometimes you do that and the motivation doesn't hit you again. And then you end up not making maybe the timelines that you had originally set for yourself. So one thing I would note to the people out there is just do it anyway. Develop some self-discipline so that even on the days where maybe you're feeling a little less passionate about writing the book, at least at a minimum, like, I'm going to write 2 pages today, right? Even on a day where I'm not feeling passionate, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write 2 pages. If it's a day where I'm just feeling so passionate and motivated about writing the book, well, maybe I'll sit down and I'll write 20 pages. My second piece of advice would be, try to understand that you can influence your own motivation, right? So if you are feeling less motivated, there are things you can do to boost your motivation. Some people, that's exercise, right? So if you're just not feeling motivated about the book and exercise does it for you, give that a go. For me, one thing that really helped was designing the cover. Almost one of the first things I did, right? And it ended up not being the final cover that I used, but that doesn't matter. The point of it is it helped me visualize the end product of the book. And that was a real motivational helper for me. So sometimes when I was struggling to write the book, I would just look at the cover art that I had designed and had the book cover on it and my title on it. And it just made me feel like I could imagine the end product. And that was motivation enough to get me to write a couple pages.
I also working with you, I found that you have some pretty interesting ways of motivating yourself as well that you can share. And that was where you said, I'm going to take like a day off every single day or every single week. And you hate taking vacation days, but you can get this done until you're done, kind of thing. I thought that was actually pretty creative of you to force yourself to get this thing written. So congrats to you on that and applying that to your strategies. When it comes to your progress, okay, explain to us what you felt, who you were before writing a book, while you were writing that book, and then when the book was done. What are those 3 stages of your emotions, your 3 stages of confidence or self-esteem, just 3 stages of what you kind of felt throughout the whole process?
Those are some interesting questions, and I'm glad you wrote them, because it really does bring some attention to the fact that writing a book is a transformational process in and of itself. So I kind of even talked about that at the very end of the book, right? Because I just felt it was something that I should share with the readers. So one thing that I noticed is that when writing a speech for Toastmasters, so that again, like, that's the kind of thing that formally, like before writing the book, would have been what I was familiar with, right? Just putting together something that you can give a 7-minute speech on. That's more like a potted plant, right? Where you know it's not going to grow out of control. The scope is manageable, and you can prune a speech so that every single line has meaning. Every single line is supporting your end conclusion, right? And with a book, I felt like it wasn't quite that way. A book felt a lot more like a garden that was kind of growing a little bit out of control and had a life of its own, right? It didn't matter how many times I sat down, and because I'm an engineer, right? So I wanted to engineer this, right? I wanted to have my outline, and then I wanted to for the book to follow the outline perfectly. And in my experience, that's just not the way to write a book, right? So that's what I noticed, is there are natural ideas that will link. So you'll be writing or thinking about something, and then it will just naturally lead into this other idea that you didn't think you were going to be talking about till another 2 chapters. But now you realize it makes more sense to talk about it up front. Mm-hmm. So I suppose one thing that I've changed is that I've learned to be more flexible with what maybe the end product is going to look like, as opposed to what I thought it was going to look like when I started, right? So my engineering brain that wants to engineer and control almost every aspect of the things that I produce had to learn to be a little more flexible, a little more malleable, and realize that writing a book is kind of more art than science, maybe.
And then the moment you got your first book in your hands, how did that feel?
That was pretty exciting, actually. So when I got the order from Amazon, my sister and her partner Chad were there as well. So we're all kind of excited, and I opened up the thing and said, "Yep, it's my book," and opened it up, and this is very exciting, right? Like that's the moment where it's like, well, this is real. It's physical. It's in my hand, and I don't know, right? It's like the feeling was so good that I was almost motivated to, oh man, I want to start writing another book so I can get this feeling again.
So there are a lot of people out there who go, you know what? I don't know how to write a book. I don't think I'm qualified to write a book, and I'm too scared to tell people I'm going to be writing a book. What do you tell these people about? How would you encourage them to, you know what, this is what you need to do, or writing a book would change all that? What would be that process for you to get people to start thinking about making it possible?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would tell these people is that is a perfectly normal reaction to writing a book, and that is how I felt about writing a book. And even when you and I first started talking about writing the book, I think one of the first things I said is like, well, I don't have anything I can write a book about. I don't know what I would write a book about. I don't think there's enough content in any one subject, which of course is kind of ridiculous now that I think about it, right? Everybody has their own unique life experience. And one of the things that I was worried about is I don't think I can say anything that somebody else hasn't said better. But that's not the right way to think about writing a book. The right way to think about writing a book is that even if you're not saying anything that's completely novel, you are saying it from a perspective that is novel, right? Like everybody has a different, unique perspective, and you have no idea what people out there are going to resonate with your story or with your perspective when they were not able to resonate with, let's say, the existing authors out there talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
So you're really doing yourself and those people a disservice by not writing your book, right? By writing your book, not only will you be, proud of yourself for what you've accomplished, but there will be people out there who will thank you for writing the book and thank you for sharing your perspective. They'll probably tell you, you know what, I always knew that this subject to this area of self-help or personal growth or whatever you want to write your book about is something that I wanted to learn more about, but nobody has ever said it the way you said it before, and I really resonate with your story and with the words you use and with the way that you communicate these ideas.
During that process of getting your book launched and whatnot, you were sending me a few of the feedback and some of the people that bought the book and how much it helped them. How was that? What was going through your head when you realized people you don't even know is giving you this great feedback, 5 stars, reviews, and all that kind of stuff? What was going through your head at that time?
That was very surprising. The first thing that was going through my head is, I guess my reach is further than I thought it was. So I kind of thought, okay, I will write a book and I'll let my family know and I'll let my friends know and they'll buy the book, but that's probably about as far as it will go. I couldn't have been more mistaken. So yeah, a lot of the reviews on Amazon are from people I don't even know. Some of them are anonymous, but some of them are names that I don't recognize. But yeah, last time I checked anyway, they were all 5-star reviews. And one thing that was kind of funny is this anonymous review. I have no idea who left it, but every single other review this person's given has been like 1 star, 2 star. They almost seem like they're someone who goes through Amazon and are really critical about the reviews they leave. And then they left my book a 5-star rating and said, this book is great. One of the books on this site that really has value. The texts I was getting were really impressive, right? So there were a bunch of people in my apartment building who had, like, I just left a message on a forum, right? We've got an online forum, and I thought, hey, for anyone who's interested in this subject, I'm publishing a book, and here's the Amazon link. And I didn't know if anybody would take it or not, but there were quite a few people who were like, oh, this is a subject I actually am interested in. Thanks for sharing. They bought the book, and then they either left a message on the forum, or they, I think I put my phone number there as well, so they were texting me. And I had quite a few texts from people who were saying, this book is really well written. I really like the ideas in the book. Thank you very much for writing the book. Yeah, again, I'm really kind of blown away, actually, at the reception that the book has gotten.
Awesome. Also, you had another big surprise, and that was getting recognition from other experts in this field.
Oh, yes.
That then led on to other projects that you're going to be doing now. What is the next big thing that's coming up for you?
Well, the next big thing is going to be a joint podcast that I'm going to be doing with the authors of Introvert to Ambivert. So we're going to do a joint podcast there. We still have to talk about the name of the podcast, to be honest. So maybe I shouldn't share it here, and then that'll end up causing confusion. But next Saturday, I'm having a meeting with Edwin and V, and we're going to be talking about what we want this podcast to look like. But yeah, I actually reached out to them to write the foreword for my book, and I didn't know if I was going to hear back from them or not, but I really liked their book, Introvert to Ambivert. And I realized it was very tangential to the subject I was talking about in my book, Hybrid Self. So obviously we have very different writing styles and very different ways of talking about the subject. But yeah, like they're already kind of established experts in this field, and they wrote a great foreword for my book. And then they reached out beyond that and said, hey, do you want to start a joint kind of podcast venture together? And I think we're just going to do 6 episodes, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But again, I think that is a really good opportunity, and it's an opportunity that I wouldn't have had if I didn't write the book.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. So if we went back in time 3 years ago, or before you even started writing this book, and somebody came up to you and said, Jebb, in your future, you're going to be a best-selling author. You're going to be working with these authors. You're going to be on this podcast, co-hosting your own shows, and going to become a speaker on different stages. What would you have said to that person at that time?
Well, I wouldn't have thought they were saying 3 years in the future. I said, oh, you're talking about 20 years in the future. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, a lot can happen in 3 years, as I'm sure you know, right? There's one of the self-help kind of memes going around, but it's a really good one, is that consistency. I think it's consistency is more important than intensity. Is that how it goes? Yeah. So consistently working towards your goals every single day, it really adds up, right? And you'll be surprised what can happen after a year, 2 years, 3 years, if you just consistently take action towards your goals. And if you're not quite sure what the next action you're supposed to take is, well, that's why having a coach is really helpful, right?
I got two formal questions left for you. And the first one is, what is the best advice that you've ever gotten from your coaches, your mentors, your supporters?
Probably just do it. I have a tendency to want to be a perfectionist. And again, in some areas of my life, this is good, right? If you're engineering systems, you want things to be perfect. So you want things to be thought out. You want to have 4 or 5 different alternatives thought out. You want to get them all peer reviewed. You want to do all these things before you really start doing things. But with something like a book, it's more of a kind of creative venture. And you have to be okay with doing something, let's say, wrong. That fear of failure will hold you back from even doing anything, right? And that's how I was. I didn't even want to start writing until I could already visualize what the next chapter was going to look like in my head. And the advice I got from yourself and honestly several other people was like, just start writing and worry about the editing and the order and all those other things later, right? Like, just get the ideas down. And that was so important, because I think if I wasn't told that, I might still have a pseudo book, let's call it, or a half book with a lot of good ideas that I'm not quite sure how to put together, and a lot of great ideas that I hadn't committed down to paper yet.
Okay, and if you had an opportunity to speak on a world stage, everybody's listening to you for the next 2-3 sentences. What is that one message that you would like to share for everybody so that they get that message ingrained into their brain?
I think if I had the world stage and I had one message, it's hard to limit it down to one. I would want to convince people the power of self-authoring, let's say, the power of being able to not only create your own future, but create your own future self. And to think about what you're doing every single day and ask yourself, are these the things that the ideal version of myself would be doing? Are these the things that are going to help me transform myself into the ideal version of myself? What I've noticed, so many people who, let's say they're not happy with where they are in life, or they feel like their life didn't end up the way they wanted it to, you start to ask them what they do every single day. And you also ask them what their dreams are or what their goals are. And you immediately discover that they're not in alignment. Right? Like, someone could say, oh, I always wanted to write a book. Oh, okay. What are you doing with your time? Oh, I watch a lot of TV. And okay. Well, if I were your coach, I would probably start with like tracking your time, how you spend your time every single day, and then look at your goals. And then I say, I want your goals and the way you spend your time every single day to be more closely aligned. So sometimes that means we're going to have to change your behavior every single day, so that your behavior is something that's going to produce the results that you want. And sometimes it might actually go on the other end of the spectrum, right? So I always felt like I wanted to be in a band. But then when I look at my schedule and go, well, how often do you practice singing and guitar? And I say, oh, I tend to only do it once in a while when I feel like it, just for fun, and I don't really take it that seriously. So it's like, okay, so there's a mismatch here between my own goal of wanting to be in a band and how I'm spending my time. And then when I think about my priorities, I realize, I'd rather be an author and a speaker than be in a band. So I have to actually change that goal, right? That goal isn't really a priority like I thought it was. So there's nothing wrong with me playing casually on my guitar. It's a fun hobby, but I have to realize that if I'm just going to take it casually, then it's not going to produce the results that I want.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, I got 5 quick questions for you. Just give me the first things that come to mind.
Okay.
Right. Number one, if you had an opportunity to work with a celebrity in your biopic, so you have a movie about yourself and you have a co-star who's going to play your best friend, who would that co-star be?
Oh, I mean, my idea of celebrity is very different probably than most people's, because for me, celebrities are people like Adam Grant and Simon Sinek and Brene Brown,
Yeah.
or Jonathan Haidt, or Sam Harris. I don't know. Like, I really like intellectuals and people, in particular philosophers or psychologists. So any of those people, I would be over the moon to work on them with anything.
All right. So you have your top 5. Who's your top 5 people that you would like to have sitting in your round table?
Oh, Adam Grant, Jonathan Haidt. I think they're the 2 easy ones. Probably Brene Brown, Simon Sinek. I'm missing someone. Sure. So we'll go with Sam Harris, maybe.
All right. So you have all 5 of them at your kitchen table. They're hungry. What is your specialty that you're going to be able to serve them?
Oh, well, pizza, I guess, is the first thing that comes to mind. I know I've been in situations where I had to feed a large crowd before, and I've tried a lot of different options, but pizza is usually the easy go-to. Not only is it kind of more cost effective and less prep than a lot of the other options, but pizza is pretty versatile, right? So you can get pizza that makes vegetarians happy, pizza that makes meat eaters happy, pizza you can, if you're you know what you're doing, you can get vegan pizza, dairy-free pizza, gluten-free pizza.
In the game of Monopoly, okay, they have 4 or 5 different playing pieces. If you were to create a Monopoly game of yourself, what would be those 5 pieces that you would have as the player tokens?
Oh, I would make them a lot cooler than the ones that come in the Monopoly board. Yeah. I mean, I kind of like fantasy and sci-fi stuff for a hobby, so I'd probably focus on those things for my pieces. So maybe like a knight with a shield and a sword. I don't know, maybe a wizard with casting a spell or something. Of course, you could also do some cool sci-fi stuff with spaceships, right? They just have 5 different spaceships with really cool designs and models. I don't know. I think it'd be a lot cooler than a thimble or what? There's a little dog. I can't even remember the Monopoly pieces. I just remember always wanting to go for the car because it was the only piece I liked.
Awesome. What is one vehicle of mode of transportation that will represent you the best?
Rocket ship.
Very well said. And finally, what is success like? But before that, I have 5 random items here. So give me a number between 1 to 5.
Hi. Oh, you want me to pick a whole number? 3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success like compost?
Oh, success is like compost because the things you put in the compost, right? They were things that are organic, right? So organic things, like I mentioned before, they're not perfectly engineered things. Organic things kind of grow on their own, and even when you think that they're expired and maybe that they don't have any value to add anymore, actually, you can throw them in the compost, right? And they are just going to keep adding value, right? So they're going to decompose. You're going to have some fertilizer if you want to do some gardening. So success leads to more success, right? Because you can grow more organic things, which might eventually also end up in the compost later. And it kind of creates a cycle, right? A cycle that just feeds into itself, as long as you keep doing the work, right? So as long as you keep growing the new produce and putting more compost in the compost bin and doing what you have to do to keep the cycle going.
Awesome. Very, very well said. That is why success is like compost. Is there any last words that you want to share? Is there anything else that you want to tell people about your book and why people should get your book?
Well, I think anybody who is an introvert who feels like you're living in a world built for extroverts, and that feels like a weird thing to say right now during this pandemic, because usually I do think that that is an accurate description of at least for Western civilization. We're very focused. It does seem like Western civilization is built for extroverts, and introverts are trying to find our way how to thrive in that world. The pandemic's changed that up a little bit, right? I've definitely talked to some extroverts who feel now like we're living in a world built for introverts. But any introverts who feel like maybe they've wanted to thrive more in situations or environments where they felt like they were maladapted, or they felt like an extrovert was the better set of skills to have to thrive, you should really pick up my book and give it a read, because I share my own personal experience and the things that worked for me on how to incorporate those aspects into my personality. And this is not about that introverts don't have our own strengths and our own gifts. That's why I talk a lot about incorporating the strengths that extroverts have while keeping our own strengths as introverts and extroverts.
Awesome. So everybody else, if you're watching, make sure you pick up The Hybrid Self. It's a great read, has lots of great tips and strategies for you. Good for introverts and extroverts, because you can find that hybrid self inside of you. So make sure you reach out. What's the best way to reach out to you? And I'm sure there's ways to getting an autographed copy as well.
Yeah, so it would be to use my Facebook, or just to send me an email. So it's just like my name, so jebb.richard@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on all your success and all the big things that's coming up for you. I can't wait to hear more announcements from you.
Thanks, Fong. It's been great.
Awesome. For everybody else, that's it for us today. He is Jebb Richard. My name is Fong Chua. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.